The thin polyester of the school mascot costume muffled the sound, but not the joy. Leo, my son, 8 years old and swallowed by bright yellow fabric, was dancing, and he was a bee, or perhaps a slightly melted popcorn kernel, doing a clumsy spin for my phone's camera. The air in the Brooklyn Elementary School gymnasium smelled like floor wax, stale popcorn, and the damp wool of coats shedding the October chill. A volunteer DJ was playing something loud and cheerful, a song about moving your feet, and for the first time in maybe a week, my shoulders were not trying to meet my ears. I am Elena Torres. In my other life, the one that starts at 10 post-meridium, I am an emergency room nurse. Here, I was just Leo's mom, trying to get the angle right. That was when the air changed. It was not a sound, it was a smell. Whiskey, sharp and sour, cutting right through the smell of popcorn. It was the scent of my past, a scent I had scrubbed from my apartment and my life. I lowered the phone. Ryan Hale, my ex-husband, was standing 10 feet away. He was not supposed to be here. His visitation was not until Sunday, but there he was, his traffic cop uniform looking slept in, his face flushed with something more than the autumn air. He was swaying, just slightly, a tiny motion that my body registered before my brain. He saw me, his eyes. Once the eyes I had loved scanned the gymnasium, dismissing the PTA banners and the clusters of parents. They landed on Leo. "There he is," Ryan said. His voice was too loud, a boom that slid under the DJ's music. I stepped in front of my phone, in front of the camera, creating a wall with my body between him and our son. Leo, bless his innocent heart, was still dancing, oblivious inside his polyester shell. "Ryan, you cannot be here," I said. My voice was low, my ER voice, the one that means I am in control and you will listen. He laughed, a wet, short sound. "Do not tell me where I can be. Elena, he is my son. I am here to get him." "It is not your night." My pulse was starting. I could feel it, a trapped bird in my throat. I am trained to read vital signs. Mine were all escalating. "It is my night now." He slurred. He took a step. "We are going tonight." No. The word was small, but absolute. "What did you say to me?" He advanced, closing the distance. The smell of whiskey was a physical assault. "He is my son. You do not keep him from me." He was close enough now that I could see the broken blood vessel in his left eye. He was drunk, not tipsy. Drunk, the dangerous kind, the kind that fed his rage and his entitlement. "Ryan, you are drunk. You need to leave," I said. Leo had stopped dancing. The big yellow head of his costume swiveled towards us. "Daddy!" Ryan's eyes lit up, a terrible, possessive brightness. "Hey, buddy, we are leaving. Get your stuff." "No," I said again. Louder this time. I put my hand on Leo's shoulder, who had run over to me, suddenly uncertain. I could feel his small body trembling under the costume. "Leo is staying with me." This was it. The moment the air crystallizes, the parents around us had started to notice. The sea of smiling, phone-wielding adults began to part. Conversations faded. They stepped back, creating a perimeter of fear, a silent audience. The DJ, however, was in his own world, the music still pounding, a grotesque soundtrack to the scene. "You think you decide?" Ryan's face darkened. He lunged, not for Leo, but to grab my arm. I pulled back, yanking Leo with me. "Do not touch me." And then Ryan raised his hand. It was not a fist, it was an open palm, which was almost worse. It was the hand of a dismissal, a slap. It was the hand that had once gripped my wrist so hard it left a constellation of bruises. It was the hand that had pointed at me, jabbing the air while his voice tore me apart. The hand hung in the air, a terrible promise. My entire world compressed to that hand. My knees went weak. I tasted metal, the way you do in the ER when the blood loss is severe. My own blood was draining from my face, a cold rush downward. I did not scream. I did not flinch. I just held Leo's hand, my grip so tight I was probably hurting him. "No," I whispered, a final, useless defense. A man stepped into the space between us. He had not been there a second before. He seemed to materialize from the crowd, but he was not part of the crowd. He was tall, dressed in a dark suit that cost more than my car. It was ridiculously formal for a grade school festival, yet on him, it looked like armor. His hair was black. His face was calm, serene even. It was a face I recognized from the society pages of the local paper, laminated and taped to the wall of the PTA office. Luca Vitale, the owner of the Italian restaurant that had donated all the pasta for the fundraiser, the man whose family, the whispers said, was connected to things best left unsaid. He did not look at me. He did not look at Ryan's raised hand. He looked directly into Ryan's eyes. His presence was immediate. He was perfectly still, but the entire room seemed to reorient itself around him, like planets finding a new sun. His gaze was not angry. It was not threatening. It was an order. It was the kind of look that did not need to be backed by volume. He spoke. His voice was not loud, but it cut through the gym, through the pounding bass of the music. He directed his words toward the DJ's booth. A calm command. Not this time. 3 words. The DJ, who had ignored a drunk man shouting and a woman's fear, heard those 3 words. He must have... The music did not just stop. It was murdered. The track cut off mid-beat, a sudden, violent amputation of sound. Silence flooded the gymnasium. It was a thick, heavy thing, filled with the intake of 100 breaths. In that silence, every eye was on us, on Ryan with his hand still ridiculously in the air, on me, clutching my son, and on Luca Vitale, who stood like a statue between the victim and the threat. Ryan froze. The alcohol in his brain could not process this new variable. His hand wavered, the anger in his face curdling into confusion. I know the eyes of a man about to hit someone. I have seen them in the trauma bay, in the psych ward, in my own bedroom mirror years ago. They are wide, yet focused, the pupil a pinprick of pure, unthinking rage. I saw them in Ryan. And now, looking at the back of the man standing in front of me, I knew I was seeing something else. I was seeing the eyes of a man who had just promised protection. I did not need to see his face to know it. It was in the set of his shoulders, in the absolute certainty of his stance. But a question, cold and sharp as a scalpel, cut through my relief, protection or control. I had spent the last 2 years fighting for my independence, for this small, fragile life with my son. I had built a fortress made of late shifts and custody agreements. I was beholden to no one. Luca Vitale was not my friend. He was not my family. He was not my savior. I did not want this. I did not want to trade the fear of a drunk ex-husband for the debt of a quiet man with too much power. I would not replace one cage with another. The spell was broken by the squeak of rubber soles. 2 uniformed police officers, the local beat cops who usually just waved at the kids, were walking in. They had taken their time. Their arrival felt like an afterthought. Ryan saw them. The sight of a uniform, even one that matched his own, finally broke his drunken paralysis. His hand dropped. He took a staggering step back, the fight draining out of him, replaced by a sullen, childish spite. "Fine," he spat, not at me, but at the floor. "Fine. You keep him. You just tell that to the judge. I will see you in court, Elena. I will tell them all about this." He turned and walked away, bumping into a table of cupcakes, sending a few scattering to the floor. He did not look back. The officers watched him go. One of them, a young woman, looked at me. "Ma'am, you okay?" I nodded. My throat was too tight to speak. Luca Vitale had not moved. He waited until Ryan was out the door. Then he turned. Not to me. He turned his head just slightly, a fractional movement, as if he was listening to a sound only he could hear. It was a small gesture, but it felt significant. It felt as if he had just hammered an invisible stake into the gymnasium floor, drawing a line around me and my son, a boundary he had claimed. My fear was gone, replaced by a sudden, hot surge of defiance. I did not belong to him. I pulled Leo behind me, my hand still gripping his shoulder. I turned to Luca Vitale. My voice came out, shaky but cold. "I do not need you." He looked at me. His eyes were dark, and for the first time, I felt the full, analytical weight of his gaze. He was assessing me, just as I assessed patients in triage. He was not offended. He was not amused. He was simply observing. He spoke, his voice so quiet it was only for me, a private contract in the sudden hum of the crowd resuming its murmur. "Whether you need me is for later," he said, his words precise. "Right now, your son needs to be safe." His words hung in the air long after he was gone. "Right now, your son needs to be safe." It was not a question. It was a verdict. And it followed me out of the gymnasium, a quiet ringing in my ears that was louder than the resurrected music and the nervous chatter of the other parents. I took Leo home, my hand shaking as I put the key in the lock. And I did not sleep. Now, 12 hours later, the fluorescent lights of the Queen's Hospital emergency room buzz overhead, a sound so familiar it is almost silence. This is my world. I am Elena Torres. I am 32 years old. My life is measured in 12-hour night shifts, in the precise drip rate of intravenous fluids, and the acrid smell of antiseptic wipes. I am a nurse, not just any nurse. I am the one they call when the trauma bay is full and the blood is on the floor. I used to be a relief nurse down in Louisiana. I worked after the hurricanes, in field tents where the humidity was so thick you could not tell sweat from tears. I have set bones by flashlight and delivered babies during power outages. I came back to New York City for 2 reasons: my son, Leo, and my mother, whose memory was beginning to fray at the edges, and who needed to be close to her only child. I have a simple philosophy, one I learned in those flooded towns, and one that serves me well here. I hate heroes, and I hate debt. Heroes always want something in return, a medal, your gratitude, your autonomy, and debt is a leash. I live my life to be free of leashes. I love my job because it is clear. In the emergency room, there is no ambiguity. A heart is beating, or it is not. An airway is open, or it is closed. A patient has a pulse, or he does not. You act. You make a decision. You see the result. It is binary. It is truth. The family court system, my other battlefield, is never that clear. It is a swamp of hearsay, subjective judgments, and paperwork. In court, truth is just a story, and whoever tells the better one wins. My ex-husband, Ryan Hale, knows how to tell a good story. On paper, he is a model citizen. He's a traffic cop. He wears a uniform. He is, according to the court filings, a good father. In real life, he is a man burning with a low-grade fever of jealousy and a desperate need to win. Our custody agreement is technically 50-50, but every exchange, every holiday, every shared decision is a new front in his war. He does not want Leo. Not really. He just does not want me to have him. And Luca Vitale, before that moment in the gym, he was just a name, a rumor. I knew him the way most of the neighborhood did through the free meals his restaurant, Vitale's, provided during the worst of the pandemic. He sponsored the Parent-Teacher Association. He paid for the new computers in the school library. His restaurant was a community hub, a brightly lit place in Bensonhurst that smelled of garlic and old-world comfort. The whispers said the Vitale family was built on old business, that the polished wood and fine wine were funded by something dark. But in our part of Brooklyn, you learn to live with shadows. You take the charity and you do not ask about its source. My life exists within a fragile ecosystem. There is the Parent-Teacher Association, where the mothers trade gossip over lukewarm coffee. There are my neighbors, a mix of every language and color. All of us just trying to get by. There is the subway, the elevated track that rattles my apartment windows at night. I change my route to and from the hospital every few days. A small, paranoid precaution Ryan's erratic behavior taught me. And looming over it all are the institutions, Child Protective Services, the family court, the twin ghosts that haunt every mother fighting for her child. One anonymous phone call, one lie whispered to the right person, and they can take your life apart. Because of this, I have one cardinal rule: I do not get involved with complicated men. I do not engage with ambiguous power. My life is a closed loop, and I am the one who controls it. I go to work. I pick up my son. I sleep. I repeat. But a loop can be broken. 4 weeks ago, a full month before Ryan raised his hand in that gym, my loop was fractured. It was a Tuesday, 3 in the morning. The emergency room was a war zone, the way it always is when the weather turns cold. We were full, every bed taken. Patients lining the hallways. We were running on fumes and caffeine. Then the ambulance radio crackled. Gunshot wound, chest, 5 minutes out. He came in on a gurney, a John Doe, no name, no identification, just a man in an expensive suit that was now shredded and dark with blood. He was big, and he was dying. His pulse was a thread. His breathing was shallow. The monitor screamed, left side, bullet entry, no exit. His heart was drowning in its own blood, a tamponade. The attending doctor on duty, a resident still green around the gills, froze. He was calling for a surgeon, for a chest tube, for time we did not have. "He's crashing," I said. "He does not have time for a surgeon." The doctor looked at me, his eyes wide with panic. "What do you want me to do, Torres?" I did what I was trained to do. I made the clear, binary choice. "Give me the thoracotomy tray, now." I did not wait for his permission. I grabbed the sterile kit. I took the scalpel, and right there, under the buzzing fluorescent lights of Trauma Bay 2, I cracked his chest. I spread his ribs. I reached into his body, my gloved hand finding his still warm, struggling heart. I found the tear. I stopped the bleeding. The monitor, which had flatlined into a solid, terrifying tone, suddenly blipped. It was weak, a fragile, struggling beep, but it was there. I breathed. He was alive. I did not know his name. I did not care, and he was a patient. My job was done. It was only later, much later, that I learned who he was. After the surgeons had taken him upstairs, after I had cleaned the blood off my face and scrubs, the whispers started. The men in dark suits who appeared in the waiting room, the detectives who flashed badges. That John Doe, the man whose heart I'd held in my hand, was Luca Vitali. And I remembered something else from that night, a security alert that had come over our pagers just as he was being wheeled into surgery. Security had spotted an unidentified man with a handgun in the employee parking lot, lurking near the emergency room entrance. By the time the police arrived, he was gone. I had dismissed it at the time. We get threats. We get drama. But now, I know it. That was the night my small, protected world and Luca Vitali's large, dangerous one collided. That night, 4 weeks ago, was pure procedure. The man on the gurney was not a man. He was a set of failing vital signs. Gunshot wound to the left chest, thready pulse, blood pressure in the basement. He was drowning on the inside, cardiac tamponade. The young doctor, his face pale and slick, was shouting for a surgeon. But surgery was on another floor, an elevator ride away, a lifetime away. The monitor above the patient's head flatlined. That long, unwavering tone is the sound of the end. I did not have time for permission. I did not have time for the chain of command. "I am cracking him," I said. It was not a request. I grabbed the thoracotomy tray. The resident just nodded, his eyes wide. I took the scalpel, made the cut, pushed the rib spreaders in and cranked. I reached my hand into his chest. It was warm, wet, and still. I found his heart, a heavy, useless piece of muscle. I found the tear in the pericardium, the sac around it, which was rigid with trapped blood. I ripped it open. Old blood and clots gushed out, spilling over my gloves, onto the floor. And on the monitor, a blip, then another, a weak, unsteady sinus rhythm. Beep, beep, beep. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. I stepped back, covered in a stranger's blood. "He is back," I said. "Now you can call the surgeon." I did not know his name. I did not want to know. I went to the scrub sink, washed my hands for 5 minutes, and signed the charts. It was 3:30 in the morning. The consequences began at 9. Just as my shift was ending, I was summoned to the hospital administrator's office. I expected a reprimand, a possible suspension for acting outside my nursing scope, even though I had saved his life. But it was not the administrator, it was two other people, sitting in the uncomfortable guest chairs. They looked wrong for a hospital. They wore dark, the conservative suits. One was a woman, her hair in a severe bun. The other was a man with a graying mustache and eyes that had seen too much. "Elena Torres," the woman asked. She did not smile. "Yes." "I am Agent DeMarco, Federal Bureau of Investigation." She held up her badge, a flash of gold. "This is Detective Rourke, Organized Crime Task Force." My blood did not run cold. It just stopped moving. I am a nurse. I deal in bodies, not in badges. "Please, have a seat," Agent DeMarco said. It was not a request. I sat. I could feel the grit of the long night behind my eyes. "You had a busy shift. We understand." Detective Rourke began, his voice a gravelly monotone. "You're John Doe from this morning. He has a name. Luca Vitale." The name meant nothing to me, just syllables. "You saved his life," Agent DeMarco said, stating a fact. "A very difficult procedure, very decisive." I did my job. I said, my voice was flat. "Mr. Vitale is a person of significant interest to several agencies," Detective Rourke said. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "He is a prominent businessman." "I am a nurse. Detective, I treat patients. I do not run background checks." "We know," Agent DeMarco said, her voice softening. And that was when I knew the real reason for their visit was coming. "We've reviewed your file, Miss Torres. You are a single mother. You have a son, Leo, 8 years old. You are currently in a shared custody arrangement with your ex-husband, Ryan Hale." My hand, resting on my knee, curled into a fist. "My personal life is not relevant to my work." "It can be," she said, still quiet, still reasonable. "Things in New York can get complicated, especially when people get involved in things they do not understand. We know Mr. Hale is also in law enforcement. It would be a shame if your custody situation became more difficult, if a judge were to believe your son was in an environment that attracted this kind of attention." There it was, the threat, wrapped in a polite suggestion. "What do you want?" I asked. "Cooperation," Detective Rourke said. "Just to know that you are on the right side. We may have questions later about who comes to visit Mr. Vitale about what you hear. We are hoping you will be a good citizen." "I am a good nurse," I said, standing up. The interview was over. Agent DeMarco stood as well. She placed 2 business cards on the desk. "Just in case you remember anything, or in case you just want to talk, to ensure your son's environment remains then stable." I picked up the cards. I took out my phone. I took a picture of them, the white rectangles stark against the administrator's mahogany desk. Then I put the cards in the pocket of my scrubs. I would put them in the bottom of my locker, buried under old shoes. When I got to my locker, there was a white envelope. It was thick, heavy, and had no name on it. It had been slipped through the ventilation slat. I opened it. Inside were stacks of cash, $100 bills. I did not count it, but I knew it was thousands, 10,000, maybe more. A thank you. I felt sick. This was the second test of the morning. The first was a threat. This was a bribe. This was the debt I hated. I closed the envelope. I did not put it in my bag. I walked straight to the hospital's legal department, my scrubs still stained with faint brown spots of the morning's blood. I handed the envelope to the hospital's general counsel. "This was in my locker, I said. "It is related to the patient Luca Vitale. I want to formally return it. I want a record. I want a signed document stating I refused it." The lawyer, a man I had seen only in elevators, looked at the cash and then at me. He nodded, his expression unreadable. "I will handle this, Miss Torres. I will have a form for you to sign by the end of the day." I signed the form. I established my boundary. I went home. The next few weeks were quiet. Luca Vitale was transferred to a private floor, then discharged. I did not see him. I did not ask about him. I put the incident out of my mind. I worked my shifts. I picked up Leo. I lived my life. Then the small things started. First, a text message. It came from a blocked number. I was on the subway, my head leaning against the vibrating glass. Half asleep, the phone buzzed in my hand. The message was one sentence. You save the right person, and that puts you on the right list and the wrong list for a lot of people. I stared at the words. It was not a threat. It was not a promise. It was just a statement, cold and absolute. I did not reply. I deleted the message. I blocked the number. A useless gesture. I got off the train, walked the 6 blocks to my apartment, and held Leo a little tighter that night. A few days later, I found the camera. It was tiny. I only saw it because I was exhausted, fumbling with my keys at my apartment door, and I dropped them. When I bent to pick them up, the overhead light from the hallway caught something. A tiny pinprick of reflected glass. It was tucked into the top of my door frame, angled down, a miniature lens, no bigger than the head of a pin. My heart did not pound. It just stopped. I felt a cold, professional rage. This was my home. This was where my son slept. I did not know who put it there. Was it the feds watching me? Was it Vitale's people protecting me? The ambiguity was the worst part. Protection, surveillance. They are the same word from different angles. I did not call the police. What would I tell them? I jammed my key into the wood beside the lens, prying the small device out. It was attached to a thin wire. I ripped it out of the wall. Taking a small chunk of plaster with it, I went inside, locked my door, and dropped the small, malignant piece of technology into the toilet. I flushed it. I watched it swirl and disappear. The next day, Ryan came to pick up Leo. It was a normal Sunday exchange. He was sober for once, but his eyes were sharp, and he was sniffing the air, sensing a change. "So," he said, trying to sound casual, leaning against his patrol car, "you are running in high circles now, Elena." "I do not know what you are talking about, Ryan." "Do not lie to me," he snapped. "The word is out. You played hero for a wise guy, that restaurant owner, Vitale." "I played nurse for a patient," I said, my voice ice. "Leo, put your seatbelt on." "They are talking about you," Ryan said, his voice dropping, a false tone of concern that I knew meant he was enjoying this. "Cops are talking, other people are talking. That is a dangerous crowd, Elena." "Goodbye, Ryan." "The court is going to want to know about this," he said, his parting shot. "They are going to want to know what kind of danger you are bringing around our son." He got in his car and drove away. I stood on the curb, the gravel of unease settling in my stomach. He was not just jealous, he was opportunistic. He saw this as a weapon. The final, activating blow came 2 days later. It was not a text. It was not a camera. It was an official envelope from the city of New York, waiting in my mailbox, Administration for Children's Services. My hands were steady as I opened it. My training kept me calm. Inside was a formal letter. I was being summoned for a meeting. A case had been opened. I read the reason, the blood draining from my face, the same cold rush I had felt in the gym. Re-anonymous complaint filed regarding potential environmental concerns and unsuitable associations in the home of the minor child, Leo Hale. Anonymous. It had begun. The feds. The mob. My ex-husband. They were all shadows, but they had combined to create this. A real, tangible, legal threat aimed at the one and only thing in my life that I could not and would not ever lose. They were coming for my son. The letter from Child Protective Services was a piece of ice in my pocket. I went to work. I smiled at my colleagues. I charted my patient's pain on a scale of 1 to 10. My own was a steady, silent 11. I was scheduled to meet the caseworker on a Thursday. The attack came on a Wednesday. I left the hospital just after 7 in the morning. The shift had been brutal. A 19-year-old with a collapsed lung, a cardiac arrest in triage. I was exhausted. My scrubs smelling of antiseptic and stale coffee. The employee parking garage was cold, a concrete cavern that echoed the sound of my own footsteps. I was halfway to my car, a sensible 4-door sedan, when a white van, the kind with no side windows, screeched around the corner and blocked the lane. A man jumped out of the passenger side. He was not big, but he was fast. He smelled like stale cigarettes and desperation. "Elena Torres," he said. It was not a question. I did not scream. I dropped my bag and grabbed the small canister of pepper spray on my keychain. "Get back!" He laughed and lunged. He grabbed my wrist, twisting it. The pepper spray fell, skittering across the concrete. He was strong, his fingers like wires. He started to drag me toward the van, the side door of which was sliding open. "Let go of me!" I screamed, my voice bouncing off the low ceiling. Then there was a roar, a sound so loud it vibrated in my teeth. A black motorcycle shot up the ramp, its engine screaming. It did not slow down. It aimed directly for the man holding me. He looked up, his eyes wide with panic, and let me go, shoving me to the ground to save himself. The motorcycle swerved at the last second, the driver kicking out with a steel-toed boot, catching the man in the ribs. The man flew backward, hitting the side of his own van with a sickening crunch. The other door of the van, the driver's side, opened. The driver saw the person on the motorcycle. He saw me scrambling to my feet. He saw his partner groaning on the ground. He made a decision. He slammed his door, threw the van into reverse, and peeled out of the garage, leaving the first man behind. The man on the ground staggered to his feet, clutching his side. He stared at the motorcycle. The rider was clad in black leather, the helmet a dark, reflective visor. I could not see a face, not even a gender. The rider just sat there, the engine idling, a low, menacing growl. The man on the ground turned and ran, disappearing down the stairwell. I was breathing in gasps. My wrists throbbed. The rider turned the helmeted head toward me. I could see my own terrified reflection in the visor. He, or perhaps she, did not speak. He did not ask if I was okay. He just watched me for a 5 count. Then, with a twist of the throttle, the motorcycle roared again and was gone, vanishing down the ramp into the morning light. I was left alone, shaking, in the sudden silence. The meeting with Child Protective Services was worse. The parking lot was a physical attack. This was an execution of my life. The office was gray. The caseworker, a woman named Miss Jenkins, had a kind, tired face, which was the most dangerous thing about her. "Miss Torres," she said, looking at a file on her desk. The file was thick. It was far too thick for an anonymous tip that was only days old. "We received a call, and it was a malicious call," I said, my voice steady, "from my ex-husband. The report does not specify the source. It mentions concerning associations." She put on her reading glasses. "It says you have recently become involved with a Mr. Luca Vitali." My heart hammered. "I treated Mr. Vitali as a patient in my emergency room. That is the full extent of our association." Miss Jenkins looked up at me over the rim of her glasses. "A patient who has your home under surveillance, Miss Torres." The air left my lungs. They knew about the camera, but how I removed that, I did not know who put it there. I assumed it was a threat. "Or protection?" she asked, her voice neutral. "Our concern is for Leo. We understand you are a good mother, but the world, Mr. Vitali inhabits. It attracts a very dangerous element, bullets, people in parking garages. We cannot have a child exposed to that." She knew about the attack that had happened yesterday. The file on her desk was thicker than my life because it was not just from Ryan. It was from everyone. The Federal Bureau of Investigation came next. Agent DeMarco found me at the small coffee shop where I bought my bagels. She sat down opposite me, placing her own cup on the small table. "You look terrible, Elena," she said, her voice full of false sympathy. "I am busy, Agent. We heard about the trouble in the garage. We heard Child Protective Services is worried. That is a terrible thing for a mother to go through." She leaned in. "We can make it go away." I said nothing. I just watched her. "We need to know what Silvio Marchetti is planning," she whispered. "He is Vitali's consigliere, his advisor. We think he is making a move against the Bellini crew. We think he is going to start a war, and we think you are in the middle of it." "I am a nurse." "Oh, you are more than that now," she said. She slid something across the table, a tiny black square, a digital recorder. Luca Vitali trusts you. He owes you his life. He's probably talking to you. We just need to listen. You wear this. You get him talking about Marchetti, about the Bellini. You give us that, and I will personally call Miss Jenkins. I will tell her you are a cooperative asset to the United States government. Your case will be closed. Your son will be safe. The temptation was a physical sickness. It was an easy way out, a simple betrayal. I looked at the black square. I looked at her earnest, predatory face. I pushed the recorder back across the table. I am not your informant, Agent DeMarco. You want to arrest him? You do your job. You stay away from mine. And you stay away from my son. I stood up and left her there, with her coffee and her small black box. The final blow came from my own lawyer. I called her from a payphone. Ryan filed an emergency motion for full custody. Elena, she said, her voice tight. He's citing endangering the welfare of a minor. He claims you are in a relationship with a known figure in organized crime. He's lying. I know, she said. But someone is feeding him diesel. He has files. He has the Child Protective Services report. He even has a copy of the police report from the attempted abduction in your garage. Someone with a badge is helping him. Elena, we are in deep trouble. I hung up, defeated. I was surrounded. The law, my ex-husband, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They were all tightening the net. And that was when Luca Vitali appeared. I was at the park with Leo. I was trying to give him one normal afternoon, and he was on the swings, laughing, trying to go high enough to touch the sky. I was pushing him, my mind a million miles away. He has your eyes. I froze. Luca Vitali was standing on the gravel path, 10 feet away. He was wearing jeans and a dark gray sweater. He looked normal. He looked nothing like the monster everyone was describing. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, my voice a harsh whisper. "I came to deliver this." He held out a small, thick, cream-colored envelope. My name, Elena, was written on the front in black. Elegant script. I did not take it. "I do not want your money." "It is not money." I hesitated, then snatched it from his hand. Inside was a single card. A thank you card. Handwritten. It said, "Miss Torres, thank you for my life." I looked at him. He was watching Leo. A small, sad smile on his face. "They are coming for my son." I said, my voice broke. I hated myself for it. "I know," he said, his eyes finally meeting mine. "Child Protective Services, your ex-husband, the agents who think you are my property." He took a step closer. "I wanted to give you this, and to tell you something. Protection is not a leash." "It feels like one," I whispered, clutching the card. "It is not," he said, his voice firm. "I am here. My people are watching, but we are watching for them, not for you. You say one word, Elena, you tell me to go, and I'm gone. My people will be gone. You will never see me again. The choice is yours, always." He was offering me the one thing no one else had, a choice. I did not know what to believe. I just nodded, unable to speak. He looked at Leo one more time, then turned and walked away. The walls were closing in, but a new, terrifying door had just opened. I felt the pressure back at the hospital. I saw a chart in the rack, Luca Vitali, outpatient follow-up, and an order, a new order, for a computed tomography scan of his chest. It was signed by Dr. Allen, the chief of surgery. I picked it up. It felt wrong. He had a scan last week. This was redundant. It was a waste of resources. I looked at the signature. It was good. Very good, but I had worked with Dr. Allen for 6 years. I knew the way he made the loop on his A. This was not his signature. It was a forgery. Someone was trying to get Luca Vitali off the secure cardiology floor. Someone was trying to move him to the imaging wing, a separate, less secure building connected by a long glass hallway, an ambush point. My hand was shaking. I did not report it. I did not know who to trust. I walked to the shredder in the nurse's station. I fed the order into it and watched the paper turn into confetti. The ambush did not come for him, it came for me. That night, I picked Leo up from my mother's. I was walking to my car in her building's garage. It was late. Leo was half asleep, leaning against my side. An ambulance was blocking the exit. Not a white van, an ambulance. 2 men in full emergency medical technician uniforms stood beside it. "Ma'am Elena Torres," one of them called out, walking toward me. He looked official. "Yes. We have a report of a major gas leak at your apartment building. We are doing a mandatory evacuation. We have been asked to pick you and your son up and take you to a temporary shelter." I stopped. Leo whimpered, burying his face in my coat. It all sounded so plausible, so right. "That is okay," I said, my mind racing. "We will walk. We can stay with my mother." "Ma'am, it is mandatory," the man said. He was closer now. His eyes were wrong. They were cold. His uniform was too clean. His boots had no scuffs. "We have to take you." He reached, not for me, but for Leo. "Come on, son, let's go." I yanked Leo behind me. "No." The man grabbed my arm. "We are not asking." "I do not think so." The voice came from the stairwell. A woman stepped out. She was my height, with dark hair pulled into a severe bun, and she moved with an economy of motion that was terrifying. She was former military police. Her training was obvious. Before the fake emergency medical technician could even turn, she was on him. It was not a fight. It was a disposal. A hard palm strike to his throat, a disabling blow to his knee. He collapsed, choking, his leg buckling beneath him. The other man, the driver, saw it and ran for the ambulance. The woman did not pursue him. She turned to me. Her face was sharp, intelligent, and all business. "Sofia Vitale, get in the car, now." A black sport utility vehicle was parked in the shadows, its engine running. "Who are you?" I stammered, holding Leo. "Where are you taking us?" "I am Luca's cousin," she said, pulling open the back door. "And I am taking you somewhere safe. Those men were not emergency medical technicians. They were not taking you to a shelter." I balked. "This is kidnapping." Sofia Vitale looked at me, her eyes as cold and clear as the forged, computed tomography order. "This, Miss Torres, is preservation. Get in." I got in. The safe house was an apartment in a high-rise overlooking the river. It was beautiful, sterile, and anonymous. It was a cage made of glass and steel. Leo, exhausted, fell asleep on a sofa that probably cost more than my car. I sat on the small balcony, the wind cold, watching the lights of the city I no longer felt a part of. I heard the front door open and close. I did not flinch. Luca Vitale walked onto the balcony. He did not come near me. He leaned against the railing, looking out at the water. He held out a steaming paper cup. "It is from the bodega downstairs," he said. "It is terrible, but it is hot." I took it. My hands were shaking. The cheap, burnt coffee warmed them. We stood in silence for a long time. He did not say he was sorry. He did not say "I told you so." "How is he?" he asked, nodding toward the living room where Leo was sleeping. "He is scared," I said. "He's asleep." "And you?" "I am tired." I looked at him. "Your cousin, Sofia, she is effective." "She was military police," he said. "She handles our security." I took a sip of the awful coffee. "This is not my life. Mr. Vitale, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Child Protective Services, men in my garage, men in your hospital. Now this penthouse prison." "I know," he said, his voice low. He turned to face me. "Silvio Marchetti, my father's advisor, believes I am weak. He believes saving me was a mistake. He thinks I should have died on that table. The Bellini crew, our rivals, agree with him. You, Elena, are a loose end, a way to get to me, to discredit me, or to draw me out." "That is what this is," I said, a bitter realization. "I am the bait." "You're the person I owe my life to," he corrected, his voice so quiet I had to lean in to hear it. "And I do not leave my debts unpaid. You are not a prisoner here. You are a guest. You are safe. When this is over, you can go. You can tell me to leave, and I will. But they tried to take your son tonight, so for now, you stay safe." He did not touch me, did not move any closer. He just watched me, his dark eyes full of a weariness that matched my own, and I, for the first time, did not tell him to go. I just nodded and finished my coffee. The safe house was a high-tech prison. Sophia was a polite, efficient warden, but I could not stay there forever. The hospital's annual fundraising gala was that week. I was scheduled to speak. I was the face of the new Nurse Retention Fund, a 3-minute speech I had been dreading for a month. I have to go, I told Sophia. It is not safe, she said, cleaning her sidearm at the kitchen table. I know, but if I do not show, it confirms everything. It tells them I am afraid. It tells them I am hiding. I looked at Luca, who was standing by the window. It tells them you are hiding. He turned, his face unreadable. She is right. Sophia looked at him, shocked. Luca, Silvia will be there. The Bellini crew will have eyes there. It is a trap. It is a trap we are walking into with our eyes open, he said. We will go. Elena will give her speech, and I will show them I am not dead, and I am not weak. The gala was at the Brooklyn Museum, a grand, cavernous building by the river. I was in a dark blue dress Sophia had procured, a garment that felt more like a disguise than clothing. Leo was with us. My mother was sick, a sudden fever, and I refused to leave him in the safe house. Sophia had arranged a family room near the lobby, a secure lounge where he could play on a tablet while Sophia and 2 other men, dressed as museum security, stood guard. I hated it. I felt exposed, a nerve ending outside the skin. The main hall was filled with the sound of a string quartet and the high-pitched chatter of New York's wealthy. Doctors I worked with every day were there, transformed in tuxedos and gowns. Their emergency room exhaustion washed away. I saw Luca enter. He did not make a sound, but the entire room tilted toward him. He was a gravitational force, immaculate in a black tuxedo. He nodded to the hospital administrator, took a glass of water from a tray, and simply stood. He was proving he was stable. He was proving he was in control. I was supposed to be on stage in 10 minutes. I went to the lobby to check on Leo. He was sitting on a velvet couch, frustrated with his game. Sophia was by the door, her eyes scanning the crowd. "Mommy," Leo said, running to me, "this is boring." I laughed, a tight, nervous sound. I knelt, smoothing his hair. "I know, baby. Just a little longer. I give my speech and we go home." "Home?" he asked. "The new house." "The new house," I said. And then, just like in the gym, the air changed. The smell of whiskey was gone, replaced by the sharp, metallic tang of Ryan's anger. He was standing at the main entrance, his face pale and slick with sweat. He was not in his uniform. He was in a cheap suit, and he was terrified. But he was also determined. "Elena?" I stood up, pushing Leo behind me. Sophia had her hand on her earpiece, her body tensing. "Ryan, you cannot be here," I said. "You know the order." "What? The order is trash," he said, his voice shaking. He was not drunk this time. He was something far worse. He was desperate. "He is my son. You are not taking him." He lunged, shoving past a woman in a red dress, grabbing for Leo's arm. I shouted, "No!" But before I could move, Luca was there. He had crossed the lobby in 3 silent strides. He did not touch Ryan. He did not touch me. He just stood between us. The string quartet was still playing, a lively Mozart piece. Luca looked at Ryan, then he turned his head, just slightly, toward the musicians. His voice was not a shout. It was a blade. Not this time. It was louder than the gymnasium. It was an order that echoed off the marble. The lead violinist's bow screeched across the string, a sound like a dying animal. The music stopped. All of it. The chatter of the crowd died with it. The entire museum, hundreds of people, went silent. The hook from the school, the trauma of that day, was playing again. But this time it was louder, amplified, a full-throated performance. And in that sudden, terrible silence, a new sound erupted. A high-pitched electronic shriek, the fire alarm. For a second, everyone was frozen. Then, Chaos. A woman screamed. People began to run, pushing toward the main doors. It was a stampede of tuxedos and silk. My emergency room training kicked in. Alarms are just noise. I triage, I assess, I smelled the air. It was not smoke. My heart stopped. It was gas. A faint, sulfuric smell of mercaptan, the odor they add to natural gas. This was not a fire. This was a bomb. In the panic, I saw them. Silvio Marchetti, his gray hair perfect, his face calm, was suddenly at Ryan's side. He grabbed Ryan by the arm, and with his other hand, he grabbed Leo. "Now!" Silvio hissed, his voice cutting through the alarm. "Take the boy to the bachelor's lot. The car is there. The rest is our problem." Ryan looked at him, his eyes wide with terror. He was not in charge. He was a tool. I saw it all. This was the plan, the gala, the public confrontation, the alarm, all of it, a diversion, a way to snatch Leo. My blood turned to ice, but my hands were steady. I grabbed my phone from my purse. I did not text. I did not call. I opened the voice recorder application, hit the record button, and slid the phone deep into the pocket of my dress, the microphone facing out. I had two emergencies, the gas, which would kill everyone, and my son, who was being dragged toward the basement stairs. I had to triage. I ran, not toward Ryan, but against the crowd, toward the service corridor I had seen on the building map. People shoved me, screaming. I was just another panicked guest to them. I found the door marked utility and slammed my shoulder against it. It flew open. Pipes, ducts, the roar of the building systems, the smell of gas was overwhelming here. I saw the thick yellow pipe labeled gas main. I saw the red wheel-shaped valve. It was stiff. I put both hands on it, my feet slipping on the concrete, and turned with all my strength. It groaned, but it moved. I heard the satisfying rush of gas stop, replaced by the clicking of the empty pipes. One threat down. I saw the fire alarm panel. The light for the main hall was blinking, but the main system was not active. It was a localized alarm, a fake. I reached up and pulled the real alarm, the manual red T-bar. This one would call the fire department. This one was real. I took out my phone. One text to Sophia. Basement, Silvio. I ran out of the utility room and bolted for the basement stairs. The stairwell was concrete and cold. I heard their voices below me. I ripped off the ridiculous heels I was wearing and ran in my bare feet. The steps were gritty and cold. I burst through the door into the basement. It was a concrete labyrinth, a maze of storage cages and rumbling machinery. They were at the far end, by the fire exit that led to the underground parking lot. Luca was there. Sophia must have gotten his text. He was blocking the door. He was alone, facing Silvio Marchetti. Ryan was standing 10 feet away, holding Leo, who was silent, his face pale with shock. Silvio had a gun. It was small, black, and pointed directly at Luca's heart. "You are a fool, Luca," Silvio said, his voice echoing in the low-ceilinged room. "You should have died in that hospital. Your father was strong. You are sentimental." This is not strength, Silvio," Luca said. He was calm. He was not even breathing hard. "Using a man's child, using a civilian, this is desperation." "It is efficiency," Silvio said. He nodded at Ryan. "Give me the boy. He's our insurance. He will guarantee our safe exit." Ryan looked at Leo. He looked at the gun. He looked at me, standing in the shadows. His face crumpled. "No," he whispered. "No, I cannot. This was just supposed to be about custody. He told me. He said you were a danger." "I am," Luca said. "Ah! Do not be an idiot, Ryan," Silvio snarled. He was done talking. He raised the gun, his aim steady. "Give me the boy or I kill you both and take him anyway." He was going to shoot. I saw his finger tighten on the trigger. I looked to my right. Bolted to the concrete pillar was a large, red fire extinguisher. I did not think. I acted. I ripped it off its mooring. It was heavy. I pulled the pin. I was 30 feet away. I aimed it, not at Silvio's hand, but at his face. I squeezed the levers. A massive, violent explosion of white chemical powder filled the hallway. It was a complete whiteout, a blizzard of choking, blinding dust. Silvio screamed, a sound of pure rage and surprise. He fired the gun. The sound was deafening, a physical blow in the small space. The bullet went wild, screaming off a metal pipe overhead. The dust was everywhere. I could not see. I could not breathe. I lunged forward, yelling. "Leo!" I dropped the empty extinguisher and felt my way through the chalky cloud. A body slammed into me. It was Silvio, blind, his arms flailing. He grabbed the front of my dress, his fingers like claws. "You," he choked, his face covered in white powder. He was pulling me off balance. I was not a fighter. I am a nurse. I know the body. As he yanked me toward him, I did not punch. I used the heel of my palm. I struck him, hard, just behind the angle of his jaw, on his neck. I was aiming for the vagus nerve, the bundle that controls the heart and blood pressure. It is a system shock. I have seen it work in the ER. Silvio's body short-circuited. His eyes rolled back. His knees buckled. His grip on my dress went slack as he gasped. His whole body stunned. His brain trying to figure out if he was dying. That 1-second stun was all she needed. Sofia Vitali moved through the settling dust like a panther. She did not have her gun out. She moved past me, kicked the pistol from Silvio's stunned grasp, and slammed him face first into the concrete wall. She twisted his arm behind him in a single, brutal motion. The sound of his shoulder popping was sickening, followed by the sharp, clean zip of a plastic cuff. The dust was beginning to settle, but it was not over. Another man, one I had not seen, one of Silvio's men, was waiting by the exit door. He saw his boss cuffed. He saw the gun on the floor. He saw me, pulling Leo to my chest. He pulled a knife. He was not running. He was cleaning up. He lunged at me, at Leo, the blade flashing. I tried to turn, to shield Leo with my back, but I was too slow. No, it was Ryan. He did something I will never understand. He did not run. He did not hide. He stepped between me and the knife. He stepped in front of his son. The knife went into his forearm, not mine. The blade sank deep. Ryan screamed, a sound I had never heard from him, a sound of agony and pure, undiluted terror. He grabbed the man's wrist with his other hand, a desperate, clumsy block. The henchman, shocked, pulled the knife free and ran, shoving past Sofia and disappearing into the garage. Ryan collapsed against the wall, sliding to the floor. He gripped his arm. Blood, bright arterial blood, was not dripping. It was pumping. It was spurting between his fingers, spraying the white, dusty floor with a terrible red. He looked at me. His face was as white as the powder, and he began to cry. Not the angry sobs of a bully. He wept, his body shaking. He paid me. Elena. He choked out, the words tumbling out with his blood. Silvio. He gave me $5,000. He said he would get me full custody. He gave me the files for Child Protective Services. He just wanted me to make you look bad, to make a scene. I just wanted to win. I just wanted to hurt you for leaving me. Leo broke free from my grip. He ran to his father, throwing his arms around Ryan's neck, his small face buried in Ryan's shoulder. "Daddy, you are bleeding, Daddy." Ryan hugged him back with his good arm, his sobs echoing in the basement. "I'm sorry, Leo. I'm so sorry, buddy." I looked away. I let him have the moment. I walked through the dust, my bare feet cold on the concrete. I found my phone, my fingers brushing the white powder off the screen. I hit stop. The recording saved. The alarm suddenly stopped. The sudden silence was deafening, replaced by the distant, growing wail of approaching sirens, the real ones. I walked up the stairs, my body moving on autopilot. I pushed open the fire door and sat on the back steps of the museum, the ones that overlooked the dark, quiet river. The air was cold, my dress was ruined, my feet were filthy, my hands were covered in chemical dust and a smear of Ryan's blood, but my heart was beating, a slow, steady sinus rhythm. The door opened behind me. Luca. He was untouched. The chaos had slid right off him. He sat on the step, not too close. He just looked out at the water, at the lights of the city. He was silent for a long time, then he turned his head. "Okay," he asked. I took a deep breath of the cold, clean air. I looked at the man whose heart I had held in my hand. "I saved you a second time tonight," I said, "from the gas." He did not reply to my statement. He did not need to. He just sat there as the sirens got closer, a solid, unmovable presence in the chaos I had narrowly survived. The aftermath was a different kind of war. It was quiet, fought in sterile rooms under fluorescent lights. The police and fire department took over the museum, their uniforms stark against the white dusted marble. Ryan, clutching his arm, was triaged by the real paramedics. I watched them work, my nurse's eye assessing the pressure dressing, the blood loss. He would keep the arm. He was stabilized and transported, ironically, to my own hospital. Sophia, efficient and cold, handed a cuffed Silvio Marchetti over to the uniformed police. She also handed them my phone. "Here is all the evidence you will need," she said, her voice flat. The recording started when he initiated the kidnapping. My recording was a masterpiece of legal evidence. It had Silvio's clear, calm voice ordering Ryan to take Leo. It had his threats against Luca. It had Ryan's full, sobbing confession, the part about the $5,000, the part about the files for Child Protective Services, the part about just wanting to hurt me. It was a perfect, terrible, complete confession. The Bellini crew, seeing Silvio arrested and their own names implicated, did what all rats do. They traded. We heard through Luca's lawyers that they offered testimony against Silvio's unsanctioned operations, confirming he acted alone, in exchange for the police looking the other way on their own smuggling routes. It was a dirty, complicated piece. But it was peace. My own fight, however, was just beginning. The Federal Bureau of Investigation agents who had tried to leverage my son were next. The recording, which my lawyer immediately filed with the United States Attorney's Office, proved I was being coerced by multiple parties, including law enforcement. An internal affairs investigation was launched. I sat in a small, gray room and told a new set of detectives everything about Agent DeMarco, about her partner, about the pressure, the threats against my custody. 3 weeks later, my lawyer called. Agent DeMarco was suspended, pending a full investigation. The system, so slow and heavy, had been forced to look at itself. Then came the family court. The courtroom was quiet. Miss Jenkins from Child Protective Services was there, her face grim. My lawyer, Miss Alvarez, was a pillar of controlled fury, and Ryan was there, his arm in a blue sling, his face pale and empty. He had lost his job with the police department. He had lost everything. "Your Honor," Miss Alvarez said, "my client has been the victim of a coordinated campaign of terror, orchestrated by Silvio Marchetti and enabled by the greed and jealousy of her ex-husband, Ryan Hale." She played the recording. The whole courtroom listened in silence. We heard Silvio's cold commands. We heard Ryan's pathetic, weeping confession. The judge, a woman I had always feared, looked at Ryan. Her expression was not one of pity. It was one of absolute disgust. "Mr. Hale," she said, her voice cutting through the stillness, "you took money from a known criminal. You filed a fraudulent, malicious report with Child Protective Services. You participated in a plot that endangered not only your own son, but hundreds of innocent civilians. You used this court as a weapon." She did not look at her papers. "Your emergency petition is dismissed with extreme prejudice. Your previous custody agreement is vacated. You will have supervised visitation. 1 hour, twice a week, at a court-approved facility. You will enroll in and complete a 1-year mandatory therapy program. You will pay for Miss Torres's legal fees. If you so much as violate one part of this order, I will see you in jail. We are done here." Ryan did not look at me. He just nodded. His shoulders slumped. He was a ghost. I felt nothing. No victory. Just the hollow echo of a life that had been saved from the brink. While I was fighting in the courts, Luca was fighting in his own world. I was still at the safe house. It was the only logical place to be until the court order was final. I heard him. I saw the stream of men in expensive suits coming and going. I heard the late-night phone calls. his voice never rising, but carrying an unmistakable weight. He was, as Sophia put it, cleaning house. He was not using guns. He was using lawyers. He was closing back doors. He was selling businesses that were too gray, too tied to the old ways. He transferred power, real, legitimate power, to Sophia. She was no longer just his security. She was his chief operating officer. He was pulling the Vitale name out of the shadows, inch by inch, avoiding a war, avoiding the public bloodshed his father would have seen as necessary. He was making his organization legitimate, and in doing so, he was making it more powerful than ever. The day the judge's order was finalized, I packed the last of Leo's things. Luca found me in the kitchen of the sterile, beautiful apartment. "You do not have to leave," he said. He was leaning against the marble countertop. "Yes, I do." I zipped the bag. "I am grateful, Luca. You kept my son safe. But I am not your guest. I am not your responsibility. I have to go back to my own life." He just watched me, his dark eyes analytical. "What does that look like?" I turned to face him, my hands steady. "It looks like rules, my rules." He raised an eyebrow, a fractional movement. "Go on." "First," I said, "no money. I will not accept $1 from you, not for saving your life, not for what happened at the gala. I am a nurse. I do my job. We are even." He nodded, agreed. "Second, no gifts, no cars, no apartments, no paying my rent. I pay my own way. I have always paid my own way." "Agreed." "Third, no interference. Your lawyers stay on your side of the city. My lawyer stays on mine. You do not fix things for me. You do not handle my problems. If I have a problem, I will handle it or I will ask for help. But you do not get to decide what I need." I took a breath, and no more surveillance, no more men in shadows, no more protection I do not ask for. I go back to my apartment. I live my life. You live yours. He was silent for a long time. He studied my face, as if looking for a crack in my resolve. He found none. "That is a lot of no," he said quietly. "What is the yes?" "A phone number," I said. "A real one. The one you answer. Not an assistant, not Sophia. You. If I am in trouble, if I am scared, I will call, and you will answer. And if I do not call, you will leave me alone." He nodded slowly. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a wallet, and took out a thick, cream-colored card. It just had his name on it. He took a pen from his jacket and wrote a number on the back. "This is my personal cell," he said. "It is never off. It is always with me." I took the card. It was heavy in my hand. "Thank you." Returning to my old apartment was the strangest part. It felt small. It felt vulnerable. When I took Leo to school, the whispering started. The other parents, the mothers from the Parent-Teacher Association, they stared. They had all heard about the gala, the alarms, the arrest. I was that woman. I saw them huddled by the bake sale table. I did not avoid them. I walked straight over. "Hello," I said, my voice clear and bright. They all flinched. "Elena," one of them said, we were so worried. We heard there was, trouble." "There was," I said, loud enough for them all to hear. "A man tried to use my son to settle a business dispute. He was arrested. My ex-husband was also involved. He lost his job, and he lost custody. It is over." They stared, speechless. "I know what you have heard," I continued, "and I know you all know Luca Vitale, who sponsors this school. He was there. He helped. And his restaurant is donating all of next Tuesday's proceeds to the new pediatric wing at the hospital. I will be there. I hope you will all come. It is for a good cause." I faced it. I owned it. I did not hide. I wrapped my story in transparency and connected it to the one thing they all respected, a hospital fundraiser. I took the power out of their whispers. A week later, a letter arrived. It was from the rehabilitation center where Ryan was staying. It was addressed to Leo. I opened it. It was a single page of notebook paper, the handwriting clumsy, childlike. "Dear Leo," it said, "I'm very sick. I did a bad thing because I was angry and sad. I scared you, and I'm sorry. I promise I'm going to work very hard to get better. I love you, Dad." My eyes burned. It was the first honest thing he had written in years. I folded the paper and put it in my jewelry box, in the back of my drawer. I would save it. I would give it to Leo when he was older, when he could understand that men, even fathers, can be broken. That night, Luca and I spoke. He was in my small apartment for the first time. He looked huge, a lion in a tiny cage. He refused to sit. "I cannot promise you I am a good man, Elena," he said, staring out my window at the Brooklyn streetlights. "I cannot promise I am fixed. My world is what it is." "I do not believe in fixed," I said, leaning against the kitchen counter. "In my world, there is stable or unstable. That is it." He turned to me. "I am not my father. I will not be. I promise you this. I will be better today than I was yesterday." I looked at him, this man of shadows and quiet power, who had kept his word, who had respected my boundaries. I believe in small, sustainable commitments. Luca, that one I can believe. We spent one last night at the safe house, just to pack the last of Leo's toys. He fell asleep on the giant sofa, exhausted from the move. I stood in the silence of the massive living room, looking out at the glittering lights of the city. I was not a prisoner here anymore. I listened to Leo's breathing, the deep, even rhythm of a child who feels safe. It was the sound of a normal EKG, a healthy heart. It was the sound of my life, finally stabilizing. 3 months, 90 days. It is not a long time, but it is enough. We moved back into our apartment, the small one, the one with the rattling windows and the neighbor who plays his music too loud. It is home. The first thing I did was buy a cheap glass vase and a bunch of yellow chrysanthemums, the ones that smell like earth and autumn. My mother loved them. I put them on the kitchen table, a small, bright sun in our small world. My life went back to its old rhythm, but the beat was different. It was steadier. I still work the night shift at the hospital. I still come home tired, my feet aching, the smell of antiseptic clinging to my hair, but the fear is gone. The gnawing, low-grade anxiety that used to live in my stomach, the one that made me check the locks 3 times, is gone. It is Saturday. The park is full. The November air is crisp and smells like distant wood smoke. Leo is playing soccer. He's not in a polyester bee costume anymore. He's in a red jersey, his cheeks flushed, his hair a wild mess. He's a boy. He's just a boy, and he is laughing. Sofia Vitali is with him. She's in track pants and a hoodie, her hair in a severe ponytail. She looks nothing like the military-trained shadow who cleared a room with her bare hands. She's teaching him a crossover dribble. Her voice, usually so flat and sharp, is light. "No, Leo. Plant your left foot, then you cut right, fake him out. Good, again." I'm sitting on a wooden bench, my hands wrapped around a paper cup of terrible bodega coffee. It is hot, and it is here. That is all that matters. He is fast. Luca's voice does not startle me anymore. He's sitting on the other end of the bench. He did not ask to join me, he just appeared. A quiet presence. He's holding his own cup of coffee. He keeps his distance, a good 6 feet. He understands the boundaries I drew. He respects them. The space between us on the bench is a physical representation of the rules I gave him, and he has not once tried to cross it. He gets it from me, I say, and we both smile. We sit in a comfortable, adult silence. We watch our family. No, that is not the word. We watch our people. We watch them play. I look at Luca. He's not a monster. He's not a hero. He's just a man in a dark wool coat, watching a boy he barely knows play soccer with his cousin. My new peace, I have learned, is not the absence of fear. I will always be afraid. I am a mother. I am a nurse. The world is full of broken bones and bad men and viruses you cannot see. Fear is just a part of the job. No, my peace is not fearlessness. It is knowing, with absolute cellular certainty, that if I call, someone will answer. I look at the man at the other end of the bench. He will answer. "I have something for you," he says, not looking at me. He is still watching the game. "Luca, I told you, no gifts." "It is not a gift," he says. "It is an explanation." He reaches into the pocket of his coat. He pulls out a small, leather-bound notebook. It is old. The leather is cracked and soft, the edges of the paper brittle and brown. It looks like something someone would keep for a lifetime. He holds it out. I look at his hand. What is it? "It was my mother's," he says. I take it. It feels warm from his pocket. I open it. The pages are full of slanted, feminine script, all in Italian. Recipes, notes, names, a life. A page near the back is folded, the corner creased over and over. I open it. There is only one thing written on that page. 3 words, in English, pressed hard into the paper. Not this time. I look at him. My heart, the one I am so good at keeping steady, does a strange, slow roll in my chest. "My mother," he says, his voice so quiet I can barely hear him over the sound of the kids playing. "She was not a happy woman. My father, he was who he was. He was not a good man. He was not kind to her. She tried to leave him, twice. He brought her back, both times. He used us, the children, to keep her. He broke her, a little more each time." He sips his coffee. After the second time, she stopped fighting him. She just survived. But she started writing in this book. And she taught me. When my father would yell, when he wanted me to be hard, to be like him, to hit back, she would find me later. She would whisper to me, "You are not him, Luca, you are not him." She was trying to break the cycle. She was trying to save me. He points to the book in my hand. That page. She wrote that down the day she was diagnosed. The cancer, the doctors told her it was bad. My father wanted to fly her to Switzerland, to buy her a new, expensive treatment, to control her illness the way he controlled everything else. She refused. She told him, not this time. She was not going to let him control her death. She was going to do it her way. He finally turns to look at me, his dark eyes holding mine. She died in her own bed, not in his hospital. I learned it from her, Elena, those words. I stare at the page, not this time. My mind goes back, the gym, the gala, the 2 moments he had stepped in. A wall between me and my past. I thought he was speaking to Ryan. I thought he was issuing a threat, a new rule, a new power replacing the old. I was wrong. I look at him, at this quiet, complicated man, and I finally understand he was not talking to Ryan. He was talking to me. He was talking to himself. He was talking to the entire broken, watching world. He was saying, the cycle stops here. The violence, the control, the men who use their fists, or their money, or their power to keep women and children in cages. He was taking his mother's words, and he was making them his own. He was not promising to be a hero. He was promising to be a boundary. I smile. It is a real smile. It starts in my chest, and it works its way up. I hand him back the book. She sounded like an amazing woman, I say. She was, he says, tucking the book back into his coat. On the field, Leo kicks the ball. It soars, a perfect red arc, and lands in the net. He throws his hands in the air, a pure, unadulterated shriek of joy. Sophia, the ex-military police officer, picks him up and swings him around. I stand up. The coffee is gone. I should get him home. I'm on shift tonight. Luca stands with me. The distance between us is still there, but it does not feel like a boundary anymore. It feels like respect. Elena, he says, yes. This Sunday, I am making lasagna. It is not an order. It is not a declaration. It is just a fact. Sophia will be there. I look at him. I think of my empty kitchen, of the small, bright yellow flowers in their vase. I will bring dessert, I say. I walk away, calling my son's name. My life is not a fairy tale. Love, I have learned, the real, grown-up kind, is not pretty. It is not flowers and grand gestures. It is not white knights. It is battlefield medicine. It is a tourniquet in a dark alley. It is cracking a man's chest open on a gurney. It is messy. It is bloody. It is not about romance. It is about doing what is necessary to keep each other alive. I grab Leo's hand. He is sweaty and dirty and vibrating with happiness. We walk toward the subway, toward home. The sun is setting, casting long, golden light through the bare trees of Brooklyn. And 3 words echo in my head, a new rhythm, a steady beat, not this time. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I am so curious. Where in the world are you listening from? Please let me know in the comments. I would love to connect with you. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to my channel, Mafia Boss Stories, and give this video a like. And if you really want to help, please hit that hype button so more people can find and share this story. I appreciate all of you.